This is a Superman page from Superman #3 by John Byrne and Terry Austin. And this page in particular, just growing up, a big fan of the Byrne Austin stuff, but all the X-Men stuff was way out of my reach, even when I was starting to collect it. So getting stuff from Superman was a way of getting more affordable Byrne Austin art. And what about this page in particular is just a lot of techniques in play here, where you can see that Terry Austin was using a sponge for some of the kind of gritty, messy effect that was going on with this Superman, just trying to make it seem dirty. And then on the robot dude here, he was using a crayon in some of this to give you a little bit more of a grayscale, a little bit of a texture thing in there, and just being able to examine his inks and examine his work to be able to see how he solves different problems or how he creates different kinds of effects. It's just incredibly helpful in terms of being able to create something on your own, to get an idea of how somebody does the work that they do. And I always thought this guy was a cool looking villain, but he was dispatched in like a couple of panels later on. It was like, man, that guy could have been just a cool new addition to the Rogues Gallery, and he then just ended up just being a guy who was kind of a throwaway. But pretty cool. Okay. Yeah, this one was a biggie for me. Huge Herb Trimpe fan. He was sort of my gateway drug into comics, period. He was doing the Hulk, and this is the first comic book I ever bought with my own money. And this was it. It was an awesome issue. It was Herb Trimpe art and Sal Trapani inking on the interiors, but the cover was Herb all by himself. And it's just, to my mind, it was just, this was as good as comics got, and it's still pretty good. I like it quite a bit. There's an awful lot of nostalgia mixed in with that, but there's some still really good techniques that he's got going on. You can see in his own inks a lot of the Jack Davis influence that he had in his work. Some cool cross hatching, and just an interesting approach to working on this. I just love the hell out of this book. This one's a cool page, recent edition, cover by Jack Kirby and Neal Adams. This was put together way later. Jack had drawn a pencil rough of how this was to be assembled, but he had provided the various pieces of it so that it could be assembled and turned into the comic book cover that it became. And then the art dealer that I bought it from had really put the piece together so that it resembled the cover which saw print. They were kind of separate things, but originally the collage would have been put together from magazines, so it would be multicolored, and it was never really pasted up the way that it is right here. It was kind of assembled as stats and such, but this is the original art and was put back together so that it looked more like the printed cover. And I just always thought that Jack and Neal was just an amazing team, because it had this realistic veneer that Neal would put on it, but it also had Kirby's power. So for this one was one of those very few collaborations that the two did, and this is sort of the best of all worlds, and having a collage be part of it was the icing on the cake. This piece is by Nick Carty. Probably some Carmine Infantino underneath here, because this arm doesn't quite work as a real arm. It wouldn't quite connect, and it seems like a very Infantino kind of looking thing. But Nick Carty I was a big fan of his work growing up, and I remember buying this comic book early on and being a big fan of it. I really enjoyed this one a whole lot. So when this became available, I snapped it up. This is one of just a handful of really, to my brain, iconic Nick Cardy covers. And there's some just cool effects that he's doing with different pens and stuff like that. Just this thing where he's clearly using something which is putting down a couple lines at the same time, and it's just a neat textural effect that he's pulling off. So love it. This is a Losers cover by Joe Kubert, and I love the hell out of Joe Kubert stuff. I love how effortlessly it is. I love his lettering. I always like those gigantic balloons that he would put on things, and that he's constructing and making his own logo for this particular issue. Everything about this is, I just love the hell out of it. There's sort of this crude charm to Kubert's work, where if anybody else had drawn characters that looked this kind of simplistic and crude in the background, you would have called him out for it. But because it's such a part of the world that he has created, it all just kind of works together to become this very powerful and emotional image that he's able to pull off. I was searching for a long time to get a Kubert cover, and when this one came up, I had to make it part of my life.